Trotter kind enough to join us. I don't know if you're on your way to drop an album.
Whoa. Come on, fellas. Y'all
You
know
look
my
like
new
Common
name.
right now.
I have filed the paperwork for my new name. Okay? I am now Boo Trotter. I'm telling y'all. I had a moment with Riri last night after the performance, and she referred to me as Boo. So I am now Boo Trotter. The internet is, the video is online. You can find it, but I am legally changing my name.
Well, that's great. So your mama named you Jim. I'm gonna call you Jim. I ain't about to call no grown man Delicious, and I ain't about to call no grown man Boo. So,
hey, Delicious.
That's nice.
Hold
that's
up.
great. That's
Hold
great
up, man. Hold up.
That's great that you had a moment with Riri. That's great. But I ain't calling you Boo. So James.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
James is the official name, by the way.
There you go. What do you call Andy Reid at this point?
Let me say first off, man, I love seeing y'all in person in Phoenix, seeing you all, seeing Matt, all of that. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. So anyway, I don't mean to hold this up. Let's get to it. What you got?
No, it was good to see you too, man. It was great to see you. Always great to see you. No, I was going to ask, what do you call Andy Reid at this point? You know, now that he's got these 2 Super Bowl titles, defeated the team that he's also the all-time winningest coach for. What kind of pantheon does this put Andy Reid in?
Oh, I've always thought he belonged up in the upper echelon, even prior to this game. Andy Reid is just a phenomenal coach. You know, when you look at the type of sustained success that he had in Philadelphia, and then you look at him and the type of sustained success that he has had, you know, in Kansas City, to me, I don't use this word often with coaches because I think it gets thrown around a lot, but Andy Reid is a genius, man. When you look at his offensive philosophies and the way that he's been able to adapt them with different quarterbacks and whatnot, I think he's just special, man. So for me, he has been and always will be in that upper echelon of coaches.
So with that in mind, Jim, having said that, so you got Shane Steichen any minute. Looks like he's about to be the head coach of the Colts. You got Jonathan Gannon interviewing with Arizona. We all know why, but I just got to continue to point this out as I know we all will continue to point it out. So Eric Bieniemy now has 2 Super Bowl titles alongside before-mentioned Andy Reid and still does not have the title of head coach. And I'm like, well, Arizona or Indianapolis, it ain't too late to schedule another interview if you need to. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, Michael and I just finished going back and forth about whether or not the Chiefs qualify as a dynasty yet. Or maybe they're just a dynasty to making it on their way. It's like throughout NFL history, every time a team has this kind of success, organizations are falling over themselves just to touch the hem of their garment, just to have a piece of it. Like, I want the guy who has mentored Patrick Mahomes. I want the guy whose offense did not give up a sack against the Philadelphia Eagles pass rush. I want the guy whose offense scored on every possession in the second half against that vaunted Eagles defense. It's like, make this make sense.
Well, let me say this to you, Mike, before I get into that. Look, I think we can all agree black folk are treated differently in the NFL. Black coaches are treated differently in the NFL than their counterparts, and the numbers reflect that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Having said that to you, and it pains me to say this, I don't think Eric Bieniemy will ever be a head coach in the NFL. I truly don't. Yeah. Here's what happens. Like so number one, you have some GMs who will say to you, or front office people who will say to you, well, he didn't interview well. And I've talked to some about this, and I push back on it and say, what does that mean? And the way they explain it makes no sense to me. So I'm not even going to go into that. But secondarily, what happens, and this is not just applicable to the NFL, but to corporations in general, when you have someone who is identified as being qualified and capable to do a job, and yet teams keep passing him or her, in this case him, then potential employers start to say, well, if they didn't hire him, it must be something wrong. So therefore, I'm not going to go down that road. Yeah, and I think that Eric Bieniemy is now facing that. I truly believe that for Eric Bieniemy to have any chance to be a head coach in the NFL, he has to leave Andy Reid and he has to have success elsewhere. And if he doesn't, people are going to continue to attribute all that has happened in Kansas City to Andy Reid. They will never give Eric Bieniemy his due, and that is unfortunate and that is sad. But that is the reality of the NFL today.
But you know what you just did, Michael? I'm sorry. You know what you just did? And well, you didn't do it. But you and I both know, we all know, even then, Jim, even if he does go somewhere else as an offensive coordinator and does a phenomenal job, they'll move the goalpost again. Like, it's always, if you do this, something else, or if you do this, or well, you got to do this. It's like, yo, every offensive coordinator that's ever coached for Andy Reid has been a head coach.
Preach, Reverend.
Except for
You're preaching good, Reverend. Preach it.
And if it's because, and Jim, if it's because he got too much New Orleans in him, if it's his accent, it's the way he talks, you know, and he's interviewed, man, there's absolutely no legitimate reason.
It's his pigmentation, and you know that.
I know. Look, the NFL. But the whole he doesn't interview well thing. What does that mean? Like, come on, you know.
They say silly things like, well, we asked him about a play that happened in a game at a certain time. He couldn't recall that and the details of it and whatnot. But yet, this other person, including Shane Steichen, who won GM, has mentioned me. Boy, his interview was great. He could recall this, he could recall that. And I said, see, this is where you guys get in trouble. Number one, let me ask you, what are the traits you want in a head coach? You want someone who can recall a play from 5 years ago, or do you want someone who can lead men, who can motivate men, who can teach, you know, who can manage games and manage people, those sorts of things. And so that's why all of this frustrates me. And you guys know I've written extensively about this. It drives me nuts. But you're right. They will move the goalposts again. And for the commissioner to get up at his press conference and say that they have made significant improvements in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion across the league, we are 1 year out from their accelerator initiative, which was supposed to improve the situation with coaches and GMs, black coaches and GMs. We are a net zero in terms of black head coaching hires, and we are a +1 in terms of black GM hires. Does that sound like significant improvement to you? Because it doesn't to me.
See, look, here's my problem, and we got to stop. I know we don't do this, but the NFL cannot call itself a meritocracy because things like last night don't matter to general managers and owners. Last night, Eric Bieniemy put on a clinic in the second half against Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon is going for a head coaching interview. And on his way to the head coaching interview, guess who he talked to? Ain't nobody. He ain't talked to nobody. Okay, so he avoided the media last night. He's got a lot to answer for. I'm not even a Philly fan or a Philly reporter. I got a lot of stuff I want to ask him about. He has nothing to say. Eric Bieniemy just played chess, checkers, and every other type of game on his forehead last night. So that's one. The other thing is, Jim and Mike, I can recall plays from 10 years ago, 15 years ago in detail. I can't coach a lick. So that doesn't mean anything. What you can recall doesn't mean anything. What happens on the field? Are you able to develop players? Are you able to make them better? And this is the last thing I'll say. It's not even a question. I'll just say it to you guys because Mike started to get into it brilliantly. Look, if I'm Eric Bieniemy, if I'm happy in Kansas City, I stay. I'm staying. I'm not leaving because it will look like I'm doing something else and I will excite ownership groups. No, ownership groups are not excited by me. They won't be excited by me if I go somewhere else and we have the #1 offense in the league. If I go to the Houston Texans and they have the #1 offense in the league, they're still going to look at me sideways. So I'm going to go where I'm happy. And if he's happy in Kansas City, I think he should stay there.
Can I say this to you? And I've said this before, but I want to make the point, drive the point home. I've called Eric Bieniemy the modern-day Sherm Lewis. And I believe that in my heart because Sherm Lewis was more than qualified to be a head coach in the NFL back in the day. He was with the Green Bay Packers when on staff underneath him. He's the offensive coordinator with the Packers on the Mike Holmgren staff. Underneath him, he had John Gruden. He had Andy Reid. He had Mike Sherman. He had Mariucci. And there was one other, Marty Morningwig. All of these guys were under him. Every one of them got a head coaching job, and Sherm Lewis never did. And I remember when I was writing a piece on this one time, I tried to reach out to Sherm multiple times, and he would not return the call. And I talked to some of his friends, and I said, why won't Sherm talk to me? And they said, probably because it's too painful. And so when I look at Eric Bieniemy, I see the same thing, a guy who is overqualified now and who has earned an opportunity to be a head coach in this league, but because of the limited, or how should I say this, come out because of the pigmentation of his skin, he is not getting the opportunity that he has earned. Not that he deserves, but that he has earned.
And it's like, man, and we've been talking about this since 2 years ago, when it was him versus Byron Leftwich, you know, in the Super Bowl. And for all the talk about the quarterback matchup, probably the more miraculous one by NFL standards, that there were two black offensive coordinators opposing each other a couple of years ago, given how rare it is for a black person to be in that room where it happens to begin with. And you and I got to talk about Jim Caldwell offline too, man. I spent some time with him this weekend. I know you know all about him.
No, can I say this real quick about Jim? What people don't understand is they see this quiet guy on the sideline or whatever, and they think there isn't a presence about him.
That ain't him.
You spend 1 second with Jim Caldwell. I don't know that I've seen a more impressive man when it comes to commanding a room and therefore commanding a team. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but make your point.
No. I was gonna save it for another day, but today is as good as any day. So I'm glad you said that. Organizationally, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to communication, when it comes to X's and O's, recall, all the things we're talking about, Jim Caldwell's got it all. One in Detroit, of course, and Stafford, Flacco, Peyton Manning, ask him about him. But what I was gonna say about Eric Bieniemy was just this. It's like, what's the downside? You know, it's like people who are far less qualified than him, but who have the complexion for the protection, get to fail. Like, there is absolutely no guarantee that Shane Steichen, apart from Jalen Hurts, is going to succeed. So if I'm going to, there's no guarantee that any of them are going to succeed. But if I'm going to take a chance, wouldn't I take a chance on a dude that's been with Andy Reid? And you best believe, if Eric Bieniemy was somehow just being propped up, was somehow not the secret to their success, or did not have a role in their sustained excellence, you don't think Andy Reid would have replaced him by now? If he was holding them back somehow. How much better could you be the number one offense in the league?
We have talked so much about Patrick Mahomes and now his stature in this league, not only today, but historically. When you ask Patrick about Eric, he tells you that this is a man who is a leader, who commands the room, who has earned an opportunity to be a head coach. So you've got Andy Reid and you got Patrick Mahomes, two of the most respected people in the NFL right now, who are telling you that. And NFL owners keep saying, you know what? Yeah, I hear you. Doesn't matter to me. Not happening. Yeah. I mean, it's sickening. It's sickening. And if anybody has the right, or to me, a case to link on to Brian Flores' lawsuit as it relates to discriminatory hiring practices in the NFL, it is Eric Bieniemy. Period. Point blank.
Yeah. But DeMeco Ryans got hired. Yeah, we had a black president too. So if you're saying it at home, shut up. Meanwhile, I got one last thing for you. And we can take this wherever you want to go, Jim. Michael and I have been talking about dynasty, and we asked you about Andy Reid. We talked about the field. We talked about the final play call. We talked about Patrick Mahomes. Just give us your biggest takeaway, other than your encounter with Rihanna. Did you look her in the eyes, by the way? Other than your encounter with Rihanna, what is your biggest takeaway from Super Bowl 57? Take that wherever you want to go.
Well, first off, I'm waiting on y'all. There's the video. That's my girl. You know? Thank you, boo. But anyway, my takeaway from this game was that we talk a lot about Patrick Mahomes. We talk a lot about Jalen Hurts, but I'm an old school guy, and I believe the games or football teams are built from the inside out. And what I saw, particularly in the second half of that game, I saw the Chiefs' offensive line take over that game. They rushed for only 30-plus yards in the first half. In the second half, they ran for 119. Why? In part, because when Patrick came up gimpy at the end of the first half in that locker room, they said, nobody touches him. And the best ways to protect him is by having an effective running game and keeping him clean in the pocket. He had only one incompletion in the second half, and that was a throwaway down in the end zone when everyone was covered. Exactly. So to me, the true heroes in that game were those guys up front on the Kansas City side who did their job. Because remember, 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, we all blamed them for that loss. We said Tampa Bay's defense did such a great job pressuring Patrick that he had the worst game of his career, didn't score an offensive touchdown for the first time in his career. They fixed it in a hurry. Brett Veach, their GM, deserves a lot of credit. And when I talked to the members of that unit after the game, they heard what we were all saying during the week. The Philly had the best pass rush in the NFL, maybe one of the best all time. First team with 4 defenders who had at least 10 sacks in a single season. All of them, they heard it. You know what they said to me after? We heard it. We don't want to hear it anymore. They said we had business to handle and we handled it, and it was fine.
They deserve the gloat.
Exactly.
Orlando Brown Jr., he deserves the gloat. Yeah. Give it to him. Give him his props.
All of them.
Always great to hear from you, Boo. We appreciate you.
All right. I don't mind calling him Boo.
I'm not calling
hey, Trotter.
It didn't feel right.
Trotter, I call you Boo.
It didn't sound right. It didn't feel right. It didn't sound right. It didn't feel right. That was one time, one time only, Jim.
No. You got that. Hey, Mike, he looks like a Boo today with the hat on. That's
common.
Boo Trotter.
One day it all makes sense.
Y'all ain't got to do it. As long as Riri did it, I'm good. Y'all are good. Y'all can call me Jim James, whatever you want. But as long as Riri said Boo, I'm good.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.